with Fletcher, did pretty well. It falls to Simpson. Sharp angle. It's a wonderful goal.
Simpson looks up. He'll go all the way, you'd reckon, from 50. Leans back. Good looking kick. He's kicked the goal.
Griffiths. Simpson to tidy up. Can go all the way, Simpson. No one in the goal square. A good bounce. We'll see it through. Boy.
Oh, the long sleever. You'd love a goal. Kate Simpson. Can he deliver one? Game 342. And there's a massive moment for one of Carlton's all-time greats.
What a remarkable career Cade Simpson had at Carlton. 342 games. And you know what? I just don't know if I saw him play a bad game. It was certainly heart in every game. And he was the heart and soul of Carlton, so he will be missed. He's been around for a really long time. He's always playing for the fans and playing for the team spirit. So congratulations to you on a great career, Cade, and all the best for your future endeavours from everybody here at Colour of Your Jumper. Welcome to Colour of Your Jumper. I'm Shelley Ware, and joining me today is AFLW legend, Melissa Hickey. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Shelley. How are you?
Yeah, good. Life is good. And podcaster and Richmond tragic Stu Farrell. Here we are, back again. Still barracking.
Hey guys. Tigers. That's it. Tigers, another good win on the weekend, so everyone's happy around here.
Everyone's happy. Nice to hear. Not so much at our house with Cade leaving. Well, let's take a look at the GWS Giants. They've gone from grand finalists last year, the Giants, to missing out on the 8 this year. So, Mel, what actually went wrong with the Giants?
Yeah, what a deep dive. I mean, I think I can't go past looking at culture there. I think, you know, for years the knock on them has been that they've been a team of champions rather than a champion team. And, you know, the change of captaincy and, you know, the issues with Kinglio being dropped throughout the season as well, obviously recently. Yeah, I think when you're winning games, you know, people aren't sort of looking at your culture as much, and you can kind of hide behind wins. So it's, yeah, I feel like it's becoming pretty stark for them post-season. And I guess the concerns are, you know, what happened with Gold Coast a few seasons ago is the exodus of players kind of back to Victoria. I think that's probably what they're going to want to try to avoid in the off-season. And, yeah, really looking within as to what's going on, how they can get some cohesion and connection amongst the group.
Yeah, it is always a big worry for them at the end of the season that everyone wants to pack their bag.
Yes. Maybe not the moment with COVID, but we'll see.
No one wants to come back here, that's for sure. That's true. Is the list overrated?
Well, I don't think it's overrated. It's overloaded, that's for sure. And look, as Mel said about the team of champions theory, it really does seem to be proving true in this case. There's now a bit of a question over Leon Cameron and whether or not he will be around and get extended as was promised earlier in the season. But the other thing to remember is that they're constantly referred to as the Rolls Royce and all this sort of stuff. And I get the feeling that a lot of these players do kiss the mirror goodnight of an evening and believe their own sort of hype and maybe think it's just going to come. The other thing to, I suppose, consider is last year they only came in at 6th. I mean, also made the grand final, and we all know what happened.
Made the grand final.
Yeah, they still made the grand final, but they came in at 6th. So they still haven't even, you know, gotten right up to those high levels and performed to what they should be doing. So, yeah, maybe they are overrated indeed.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that they play really tough footy, and I don't think they played to their strengths this year, and I wonder if for every 4 days hindered their sort of being able to play that really hard, tough footy, and they had to pull back a little bit. But you know,
there's also a theory about their training too.
Yeah, I don't think training happened this season.
Well, that's it, and they couldn't train in the style they were accustomed to, and it has affected their sort of gameplay or their game style.
Yeah, and those injuries, they certainly don't help. They certainly get whacked with that stick, don't they, Melissa? So, North Melbourne, wow, what a monster cull that was. We saw 11 of them taken out of their list with Magic Daw, Paul Ahern and Mason Wood. Now, Mel, that's a huge number of players to turn out. How long do you think this rebuild's going to actually take?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think I'm not sure whether that was a statement that they wanted to send to their supporters that, you know, that they're that they're being really strong. Obviously, that they're not accepting the season that they've had. That they've had their injuries as well, to kind of key players, which didn't help. But, they're obviously making a strong statement. And when they're starting to use language like rebuild, I think, I guess that was probably not the reason why they appointed Rhys Shaw as their coach, so that there's some issues around that, whether he's, equipped to be a rebuilding coach. And, do they go back to the draft and try to, recruit young players that are kind of ready-made and start from scratch? I guess it's it's not a nice place to be, back down at the bottom and having to get back up. It'll be interesting to see how they approach the trade period and what they do.
Well, we know they're going to be busy, that's for sure. Stu, can you see any future for any of these? Future in the AFL for any of these players?
Well, I had a look at the 11, and I'm no expert, but I mean, there's talk already around Majak Dor perhaps going to your mob, Carlton, or maybe Essendon or even the Demons, depending. Clubs that are looking for a mobile forward, second ruckman type player. And I thought he was the most surprising one, actually, to get the axe, just because of the goodwill that was generated when he was back, and there seemed to be a real good feeling there. But anyway, who knows what happens internally. Lachlan Hosey, look, he's 23. He only debuted this year. I think he's about 6'2" or something. Maybe a good small forward for someone. What do you say about Marley Williams, 27? Maybe a little bit left in him. And Jamie McMillan as well. He had a good year in 2019. This year, obviously not enough to sustain him, but he's a 160, 170 game player. And maybe he has got something to offer a club that, just needs a bit of experience there for a handful of years as well. So out of the bunch and my quick sort of look at, they would have probably a good shot at it.
Yeah, well, good luck to them for sure. I got to speak to Paul Marsh from the AFL Players Association on the weekend because I'm writing a story for the Saturday paper, and because I was very concerned about where are these delisted players actually going. There are so many of them, and is this going to be something that we're going to be seeing? But it was good to know that the AFL Players Association, if they get delisted and then they don't get picked up, they sit with them one-on-one, talk about how the player actually wants to be helped, and they have a camp for them now and have for the past 3 years, and then they get to a jobs fair, and so they help them get back into for want of a better word, the real world.
A bit of a sad camp. Where's it going on that thing?
But it's a massive change in their lives. They've gone their life at football clubs, so they've got to make a big change, and we need to make sure that they get through this transition. But it was also good that the AFL Players Association talked about transitioning actually starts now from the start of a career with a player, and that they actually start talking about it then, so it's not such a shock at the end. So that better, because I'm from the old school with all the players from the 90s where we watched the crash, so that settled me down a bit. Players from 10 clubs are now on holidays. But the question is, should they be allowed to stay in Queensland to holiday, or can they go interstate? Mel, should players go home and play it safe? What do you think?
I think the player within me says, particularly if you're a Victorian-based player, is to stay and have a bit of a off-season and have your holiday. Obviously, a lot of players would normally, head overseas at this stage and this time of the year. And, I think we have to acknowledge, although they get paid and they've been, treated really well up there, they've made a lot of sacrifices to keep this season going. So if the local governments there are happy for the players to stay and have a holiday, obviously abiding by all the restrictions within the states, and I can't see why they haven't earned that right.
Do you have any concerns with the players staying in Queensland to party?
Well, I'm sort of with Mel, but look, if I see one bloke walking down Cavill Avenue dressed as RBG or Batman, I'm going to give the game away. That is for sure. I like the fact that they're trying to knock the Mad Monday type. If they can keep a lid on it, and if there's some sort of, would it be structure? I don't know. But if there's some sort of rules around it, I don't see an issue with them being able to do what anyone else can do. But as we phase out the traditional end of season festivities, let's hope none of that raises its head, and let's hope there's no issues, because a lot of people, perhaps a lot of drink, and I don't know that if anything bad comes out, it just put a bit of a sour note on the year. So
Yeah,
I'd say
a lot of the
party
players,
with a caveat.
a lot of the players had their families with them, so I think for a lot of will be a lot of just the relaxation side of the thing because they'll be actually physically and mentally exhausted. I can see where people come from though with not wanting them to come back. You know, I had a sick family member and I wasn't able to go to South Australia. I was denied access. So part of me is like, oh, and then the other part's like, I get what Melissa's saying. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of mixed emotions about this. And I think the conversation is going to get louder and louder as we go. But you're right, Melissa. They've sacrificed so much and given so much to this, literally to us, to enjoy the game and give us something to enjoy every night. So what's a holiday between friends? So, the AFLW, let's talk AFLW. The season has been confirmed, which is fantastic news. I really believe AFL has a huge opportunity to kick on with 2021 with a huge AFLW season. Part of me also feels like they owe them something. Well, should the AFL be looking to increase the number of AFLW games instead of increasing back to the AFLW season?
Oh, I mean, it's always been an overwhelming yes. The players have always wanted more games, and I think, you know, women's football supporters would want more games as well. I think, you know, the conference system has its flaws, and we'd love to be able to play, would have loved to have been able to play everybody once. But I think, unfortunately, you know, that the arrangement that the Players Association was able to get with the AFL, I think we were going up to maybe 8 or 9 games in 2021. I can't remember exactly. It was a sort of 1-game progression, but still, you know, still significantly away from playing each other once. You know, I'm an optimist, so I'll take the 1 game and see that as progress.
Yeah.
But it would be fantastic. You know, I think the AFL players, I think Patrick Dangerfield is the president of the Players Association, has said that they want to play less and we want to play more. So I see it as being a nice equation.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Now, Stu, should the AFL be looking at ways of enhancing the AFLW season?
Well, yeah, and I agree with you. I think the AFL do owe the AFLW a big sort of push for next season. They've taken a hit this year, and my thinking would be they should spend a lot of money on marketing as a starting point at the start of the year, promoting individual players, getting a bit of knowledge around who's playing the game, you know, just increasing interest that way. I like the talk around Princess Park becoming a bit of a hub too for the Melbourne side of it. I think it's a good size ground in a good area. But the double header concept for me is one that I think has a lot of merit. Especially, say, for instance, we'll use the Tigers. I quite often reference them, but you know, at a Richmond home game to have both of us playing, or even if that, I don't know, but it would take a bit more, you know, thinking. But I think it could really work. And there's been a lot of people calling out for, you know, the Rezzies and all that to play before. Why not make it the AFLW and the AFL playing together? I think it'd be a good thing. And I know big clubs especially they get a lot of support through that. And I think it's a great way to grow the game. And the one thing after this season with the AFL, I mean, you had those knockers that always brought the scoring aspect into AFLW. Well, that's well and truly been taken off the table now as a stumbling block or a point. I mean, GWS scored 4 points in the second half of Friday night's game. So there's a lot of upside to AFLW next year, and I think the AFL should be throwing all their might behind it.
AFL have certainly learnt some lessons this year, haven't they? Now, do you agree with double header? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think Geelong, we were scheduled to play the Giants in the game that was shut down due to COVID. So that would have been the very first official one. It would have been fantastic. I just think, you know, to be able to have the energy of the crowds, you know, supporting both teams. And yeah, obviously lots of clubs talk about 2 teams, 1 club. It would be a really great occasion to be able to have, you know, have that represented on an oval over a couple of games. Yeah.
It'd be pretty special, that's for sure. So what came across my desk? Let's start with you, Mel.
All right, I'm going to refer to my notes so that I don't make a mistake here. So obviously it's final season, it's September. So I've had a bit of an eye across the different state leagues across the country. Obviously, Victoria, we haven't had any football. VFLW we've had recently the South Australian Grand Final. So North Adelaide beat South Adelaide in what I was calling the Battle of the Compass, 35-28. So that's fantastic. North Adelaide got up there. In the Western Australian Football League Women's, Peel Thunder 28 defeated Subiaco 13. In the Central Australia Footy League, the Rovers defeated Pioneers.
Well, my whole entire Facebook page was full of cousins and everyone winning grand final. So I feel like everyone won on the weekend. It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. What came across your desk, Stu?
At the NRL on Saturday night, Cameron Smith scored his 47th try, which is, a very decorated career and a big result. But I suppose the special thing about that as well was it overtook his coach Craig Bellamy's record of 46 that he had with the Canberra Raiders, and the players were very, very happy with it all actually, and signalled to the coach's box that he'd been overtaken, and Craig responded with a light-hearted, very unpolished, but bit of an Aussie response, and just gave him the bird. So it was just a nice sort of unscripted, you wouldn't want to see your Prime Minister doing it, but it was just a nice little light-hearted moment. And the one thing that I took from it was that, look, if Bellamy gets fined, it'd be a terrible mistake by the NRL. But also he did point out, and I had to note this down, where is it? There's something he scored his in 148 games, Bellamy, and it took Smith 427 games to get to his. So he's still got the wood on him in my eyes.
There you go. Well, we're going to go out with what came across my desk, and it was something that just made me laugh and also warmed my heart at the same time. Little Luna Enright, he just couldn't bear to watch the last 19 seconds of the nail-biting game between the Cats and the Swans on Sunday, and this is what happened. And we'll see you next week.